Hi guys. So after this weekend, I kind of thought about how am I going to be effective in this class with just two of you here and then both of you online. So it's going to be a little bit different than probably how I run another EDU class, but I think for the most part, this is going to work best for all three of us. So please, if this ever doesn't work and you feel like you're not getting what you need from me, say something. We can change things up. I mean, I think the number one rule in education is that if something's working, great. If it doesn't work, let's change it. So it's totally fine if this isn't going to work out. But what I thought I would do is like every day that we were supposed to have class, like Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2:30 to 3:30, I will put a video in lieu of that day, but I will put it as if it was happening on that day. So right now, this video that you're going to be seeing is going to be labeled 1/25/22 because that's tomorrow is the day, it's the 24th today. But tomorrow was the day we were supposed to meet, so I thought that might be the easiest to keep on track with our schedule and to keep on track with how much information we want to go through this semester and still be easy for you to kind of keep track of where things are. So if it ever doesn't look like it's easy to keep track of, say something. Okay, so I know mine looks a little different than yours, but for the most part, you're going to see this, Chapter 1. This is where we are this week. So you're going to have the introduction and objectives. It's going to kind of tell you what our Chapter 1 is going to be about. When I say Unit 1, that really means Chapter 1 in your book, plus all the stuff that we're going to be talking about for the next 2 weeks. Remember, these are open for full 2 weeks. So this part where it says videos here, this is where you're going to see me twice a week, and it'll be labeled under the date. So, and this is our first assignment, web search, and you'll turn that on in online. Our Chapter 1 assignment right here, this is the one that I had planned on doing together as a group for tomorrow, but I'll go through that with you today and then show you how to do it on your own. And then Chapter 1 quiz, all Chapter 1, or all quizzes come from the book. So use your book, use your notes, use your friends, whatever you need to do to get through the quiz. If you have the chapter read ahead of time, obviously it's going to be a lot easier for you to find that information. But all quizzes and tests in my class are all going to be open note, open friend, open book. That's completely fine. The food for thought are things that we're going to be touching on throughout this week, this video, and next video, so you can kind of go back and look at some of the things that we've talked about. So, hopefully that will work. If it doesn't, like I said, we will go to Plan B. So the first thing I want to make sure you know is this Chapter 1 assignment that was to be done tomorrow in class. So if you do not have the book as of yet, these are the PDFs for those pages. So the assignment reads on the top of page 425, please read and evaluate your answers. So in the book, if you have the book, it will look like this. This is 425, 426. And so I took a scan of this and put it on your PDF, so that's what you should be doing. So what it is on, it's a checklist of things that, how are you feeling about education? How are you feeling about becoming as a teacher? So for the first one, it says having insufficient clerical help. Does that bother you a lot? Does mean if it bothers you a lot, that means we're going to put a higher number on it. If it doesn't really bother you that much, we're going to put a lower number on it. So if having somebody help you with all like the secretarial stuff of teaching, if you would like that and you think that's something that you need, then put a higher number like a 4 or a 5. But if it's not something that you're concerned about, put a 1 or a 2. The second one, whether students respect me. Does that bother you, or is that something that you're going to be concerned about? If that's an important thing to you, having them respect you, then you put the 4 or 5. If it isn't, then you put the 1 or 2. So do you see what I'm talking about? That's what we're going to be doing for that. Then once you have filled out all of those questions, there's 45 of them, and you can just do this on the scratch piece of paper or print out these PDFs and do that on that. It's totally up to you. And then what we're going to do is you're going to go through and you're going to see which ones have the higher numbers. Is it the self, is it the task, or the impact? And that's going to be on page 426 of your book. So that meaning that if you feel that, like for instance, that number 1 question was the clerical question, if you scored that pretty high, that's important to you, and look under task, that's number 1 question number 1. So if you are choosing to have that and you have a high score, that means that that category of question is that you are concerned with having all the to-do lists that teachers have to do. For example, number 2, when we asked about, do you feel it needs to be respected by your students, that's more of a reflection on yourself. And so you're going to put that as the self category. And you're going to break that down into 3 categories and go through all your questions: self, task, or impact. The reason being is that once you look at all those questions that you have lined out, is it a self question? Is it a task question? Is it an impact question? And then how do I feel about some of those things going forward teaching? This is going to be kind of where you're going to spend the most of your time trying to prepare for the next level. So for instance, if you had a really high self score on a lot of those questions that are self questions, if you had high scores on yourself, then right there, that means that you are more concerned about how people are perceiving you and looking at you as a teacher. Whereas if you have very high impact scores, then maybe you are more concerned about how you are affecting the students. So what I want you to do is kind of go through those, and then we are going to be chatting about those in a discussion later on. But for right now, just have that done, and then we will we'll circle back to that in a little bit. But for instance, that's the Chapter 1 assignment. So if we go back to the home one here, even though it says, even though it says it's due January 25th, don't worry about it. It's going to be fine because I'm not even giving it to you till the 25th, because we were going to be doing this as a group in class, but we're not in class, so we're not going to do it as a group. Okay, and so what I think I will do is there'll be a little discussion thing here, and then I'll have you pop in and like kind of tell me what your answers are. And like I said, we'll circle back to that before the end of the week. Okay, the next thing I want to talk to you about is Chapter 1. If you have gotten your book, please jump into Chapter 1 and give that a read. I think it kind of starts out the best way the book should. It talks about being an effective teacher. I don't want to use the word good and bad. Anybody can be a good teacher, right? Because you can be a good person. Well, just because that teacher is nice or the teacher is fair, does that really make her or him an effective teacher? That's some of the questions that we're going to be kind of talking about in this chapter, is that, does effectiveness equal kind? I'm going to say no. Because an effective teacher is going to have students grow their levels. They're going to be exploring new ideas. They're going to be engaged with the content. Yes, kind is a great quality to have, and I think all teachers should be kind. But just because you're kind, does that make you an effective teacher? So think about, and if we were in class, what we would do is we'd write lists of things that we know are effective teacher qualities and things that we know that are not effective teacher qualities. For instance, on the category of effective teachers, we could put, they're organized. They know their content. They build a relationship with the students. They, etc., etc. You can kind of get this. If you think about the teachers you had in high school, or maybe some of the teachers that you've run into elementary school, or even post-secondary, because Sam, you have been in classes for a little bit longer here. What teachers have you run into that have been truly effective teachers? What kind of characteristics do they have? The idea is that you're going to take those characteristics and kind of build them into your repertoire of things that we're going to work towards to become better teachers. So, for instance, one thing that I was not good at, but I feel like I'm getting better the more that I teach, is that sometimes I overplanned. Like I thought, we're going to cover all of this stuff. We will do all of these wars and all of this history and read all of these books and write all these papers and watch all the movies. And I got excited about it because, I kind of love school. That's kind of how I am. So one of my things I had to kind of roll back, and me skimming the tops of a lot of these topics did not make me an effective teacher. So it really was better if we took the idea that we're going to look into one thing and truly dive deep and get deeper into it, and then truly understand the content. And so that enthusiasm that I was trying to get for all of these subjects was kind of falling flat. So I really should have done a better job of looking at one idea and then diving deeper into it. And I'm thinking of back at my third grade experience, because third graders got me so excited. I just thought, oh my gosh, we can just do all of it. When in fact, you cannot. I could not. Most people cannot. So if you think about effective teachers, what qualities do you have that match up with the list that you may have made in your head when I've been talking about this? Effective teachers. Yes, good teachers, but we don't want to be good. We want to be exceptional. We want to be effective. We want to be transformational. We want to be impactful. We don't want to be just good. Aunt Cheryl is good, you know, maybe good is nice. It's one of those words that you think, what does that even mean? But if we can be effective, and if we can be changing the way students are thinking and changing their levels of reading, or we can have them look at things in a different way, that I think is way more powerful than just being a good teacher. So when you read the first chapter, keep that in mind of like, what are some things that you are going to work on to become that good, effective teacher? And obviously, what I also want you to think of it is the opposite of that. Think back on those teachers that you clearly feel that are not effective. What kind of characteristics did they have? Were they engaging? Were they interesting? Did they like you? Were they lazy? I mean, if we're thinking about the opposite of effective, it would be ineffective. So what characteristics make an ineffective teacher? And if we were together, I'd be writing these on the board and we'd be like, yes, so what can we think about is effective teachers versus ineffective teachers? And we want to make sure that what we are doing is going to be effective teaching. So, my number one rule, if you forget everything that I say in this class, there is one thing I need you to remember. It is the basics of teaching. The basics of teaching. There are two rules. I mean, I said one thing, but there's two things in that one thing. Okay, so first thing is that you have to build relationships with your students. That's just the way it is. So people don't learn from people that they don't like. Students will not learn from a teacher that they do not like. So whether you like that student or not, doesn't matter. You are responsible for building that relationship. Point blank. Number two is that you are responsible for their learning. That means you need to know the curriculum. You need to know how to teach it. You need to know how to assess it. You need to know how to help them. You need to know how to accommodate. So that's your job. So if you remember anything, and I will keep coming back to this every time you take a class from me, two things you need to remember. You have to build relationships with your students, and you are responsible for their learning. So it's one big idea, but two things underneath that idea. To be an effective teacher, you have to build relationships with your students, and you are responsible for their learning. No questions asked. Yeah, but, no yeah buts. That means that, well, the student didn't come from a very good home. So, step up. Yeah, but the student doesn't know how to read. Okay, how are you going to fix this? Yeah, but the student is always missing. Their attendance is so bad. Doesn't matter. It's your job. So I think if we have more teachers in our classrooms that are effective teachers, build relationships with their students, and can clearly know how to teach a student, that's when we're going to make big changes in our education system. That's how you're going to impact students. So, if you have time within the next couple of days, I would really think it's a good idea to start in on Chapter 1 and reading about effective teachers. I know the qualities of effective teachers. I know you know the qualities of effective teachers. Now what we need to do is get those qualities into your practice. If you're thinking about becoming a teacher, we're really going to have to look at where you are as a person, where your strengths and weaknesses are, and kind of build on those. So that's why that first assignment, page 24, 25, and 426 is going to give you a better idea of where you're standing, how you're feeling about things, and then we're going to move on to effective teachers. Okay. Please watch the video right below this. Rita Pearson is an amazing teacher.